This video is looking at the importance of ecosystem management, and what we're going to be looking at today is looking at the term utility value that we use in regard to why we protect ecosystems. So this is what the syllabus says that we've got to look at. So in the previous video we looked at the maintenance of genetic diversity. We're now going to look at utility values, and then the other 3 dot points are separate videos in this playlist as well. So when we talk about utility value, a reason behind why we manage certain ecosystems, when we talk about utility, what we're talking about is how much money we can make out of an ecosystem. Now, everything living and non-living, all the components on Earth, have some sort of potential or existing utility value or usefulness. What do I mean by that? Well, we use a lot of plants, herbs, spices in medicine already. We can look at animals' behavior. We can look at what animals do, like use of poisons in snakes, antibodies, again coming from like spider bites, that type of thing, about how, and we can use that obviously in medicine as well, and in heaps of other different things. So when we're talking about using an ecosystem for its utility, we're talking about what we can use it for medicine, which obviously then looks at value and makes money for people. So that's what we talk about. If we have a loss of species, which is really something terrible that we shouldn't allow to happen, then we've lost that ability to see whether that animal or plant has the potential to provide, not just for us, but also for other species of animals and plants. So when we look at utility value, we're really looking about how much money humans can make out of it. Already, as we talked about in the previous video about biodiversity, the more biodiversity we have on the planet, the stronger all our ecosystems are and being able to survive. So when we look at utility value, we're really looking at how we use those ecosystems. Now, in Australia, obviously, we have a lot of natural resources that we use. Coal, for example. Obviously, we export a lot of our coal to China, and that's why I've put the ASX 100 logo there, because it does make money for the economy, and that's why coal has a huge utility value for Australia, and certainly does for other countries around the world. And that's why it's important to look for that coal and then use it, and that's the utility value. That's what we mean by that an ecosystem has that utility value. It's not just coal, but obviously resources like wool obviously comes from sheep, again is very, very important, and that's why it's also important to look at how we breed sheep, because the better the breed of sheep, the better it's looked after, the better quality of wool that we're going to get, and therefore the money increases with the amount of good wool we can produce. So countries like China and Italy will then use those in their materials to make suits and so on. So that's what we mean by utility value, and Australia is a country that uses a huge amount of natural resources and benefits its economy. So it's really important, particularly for Australia, to look after those ecosystems, because it does contribute heavily to the Australian economy, and that's part of ecosystem management as well. Now, utility value also doesn't have to be solely around money. So basically, when a ecosystem is not valued towards money, then we look at its existence value, which is the value of a community that is prepared to place on the ecosystem in its natural state. So what am I talking about there? What I really mean is that a community that lives around an ecosystem, and talking about a community of people, they value that ecosystem so much in its natural state before it's mined or anything like that, before we can take we put that value high. So that's what we mean by that. So a good example would be the Great Barrier Reef. The Great Barrier Reef could potentially be mined for some coal and gas underneath, potentially underneath the Great Barrier Reef. But what we've done, because we feel so strongly about it and because it's an important ecosystem, we've said no, that can't happen, even though potentially we could make a lot of money out of that. So that's what it means by existence value. An option value is the cost of keeping the ecosystem species in its natural state as opposed to exploiting its resources. Again, that fits in with that example I've just given you about how you potentially we might have a good seam of gas or oil underneath us, but because it's so important to us in its natural state, we don't need it to be exploited. So another good example would be some of the gas seams in Western Australia, where potentially we could make a lot of money out of it, but we're not, because it's so valuable in its natural existence. Okay, that's the end of the video, and I hope that explains to you what utility value is. Utility value is all about how we use ecosystems for money to be made, sort of changing it from its natural state. And then obviously if we don't want to make money but want to keep it in its natural surroundings, that's what we're talking about when it comes to utility value. There's some other examples of why we manage ecosystems, and that's in the next few videos in this playlist, so make sure you watch that. If you can like and subscribe to my channel, that'd be great. Okay, thanks you 12. Keep working hard.